This is Nadine with DIY Sweets. Today I'm going to show you how to make a turtle cookie bar. This is so rich and so delicious. If you love turtles, you're going to love this. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the bottom crust for our cookie bar. To make the bottom crust, what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 cup butter, the flour, and the brown sugar. We're now going to beat this, and I just want it on a very low speed because there's a lot of flour. I'm trying to get into the butter as I turn it on so the butter can break down and mix with the flour and the brown sugar. Our goal in mixing this up is to get all of that butter combined with the flour and the brown sugar. So I just want to keep working with it, breaking the butter apart. Now this butter that I'm using, I had it start at room temperature. So it's easier to break it up. It's already soft. You'll notice it is slowly breaking apart and working into the flour and the sugar. Now we're just going to do this until it's all mixed in well. We don't see any chunks of butter or any chunks of sugar. I just want to mix this in with this, make sure I have it all combined well. See, there's still a little bit of flour, so we're just going to mix it in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it onto our pan. Our pan already has a silicone mat on it and we've already sprayed it down. We're just going to take this now and dump it in there. And you notice this just looks like a bunch of crumbs. Now we're just going to spread it around and mush it down. And we do want it mushed pretty firmly down. We want it all the way spread down and we want it totally mushed. All the way to the edge and then push it down. Now that we have that pushed down, what we're going to do is we're going to take these nuts, we're just going to push them in to our dough. Or into our bottom layer. And it doesn't need to be neat, you just want to make sure that all of the bottom has it and it's all in a single layer. And then just push them down so that they're into that bottom layer. Okay, that's ready. Now that we have the bottom layer or the crust layer done, we're going to make the filling. What we do to make the filling, we take our bowl and we add the sugar, and the eggs, and the vanilla. What we're going to do is we're just going to whisk this till it's well mixed. We have this pretty well mixed now. What we want to do is melt our butter and our chocolate. I'm going to put my chocolate and my butter in this bowl. I'm going to put this in the microwave and I'm going to cook it for about 25 seconds on medium power. So I put that in the microwave and I do 25 seconds. And I do that on medium, which is going to be about 5, which is halfway. I'm going to push start. And I will keep doing that on that 50 power for 25 seconds until it is all melted. I'll be back with you when it's all melted. We're now ready to add our chocolate to our egg mixture. We want to add the melted chocolate and the butter to our egg and sugar mixture. Once we have that added, we're just going to whisk it to incorporate that butter and chocolate into the egg and sugar mixture. The last thing we want to do is we have our flour and baking powder and salt. We're going to add that all at once to our mixture, and then we're just going to whisk that in too. I don't want to whisk too vigorously because I don't want the flour coming out. Remember our pan where we put the pecans on that bottom layer? We're now going to dump our brownie batter onto the pan. And then we want to just make sure it is spread all the way around. Want to do it carefully. We want to keep those nuts as well as we can to the bottom. We're ready now to cook this in a 350-degree oven for 20 to 28 minutes. We're just going to stick this in the oven. And we're going to set the timer for 20 minutes and then check and see if it's done at 20 minutes. We'll be back when the brownies are done. While the brownies are cooking, I'm going to start making the fudge icing and the caramel sauce. To make the fudge icing, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the sugar and the water and the corn syrup and we want to make a simple syrup out of this. So we're just going to put this in the microwave for a couple of minutes. Let's get this in the microwave, and we're just going to set it for 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes, we'll take it out, we'll stir it, and we'll see if it's ready. This is Ding. I'm going to pull this out, and I'm just going to stir it and see if it's all dissolved. It's almost dissolved, but it's not boiling yet, and I want this to come to boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the microwave and give it another couple of minutes. This has now been going for a couple more minutes, so we're ready to take it out. You'll notice it is really boiling. I do want to stir it. What I want to do now is I want to stick this in the freezer so that it will cool down quickly. Because I can't go any further till this is cooled down. It doesn't have to get frozen. It just needs to cool down enough that I can work with it. All right, I'm going to put this in the freezer. And I'm going to let it sit there for about 5, maybe 10 minutes till it's cool enough to work with. The timer just went off on the brownies. We're going to check them and see if they're done. We're just going to pull the brownies out and poke our cake tester in there. As you see, it still has a little bit of liquid on it, so we're going to give it 5 more minutes. The oven just beeped again, so we're going to check and see if it's now ready. We're just going to poke again, a couple holes, and this, we want it to come out dry. And as you see, it's now coming out dry. We have a crumb there, but we don't have the liquid. We're ready now to take this out of the oven, and we want to put it on a cooling rack and completely cool it. We're going to bring this over to the cooling rack, and we're just going to let it sit there till it's completely cool. Probably will take a half an hour to an hour. Once it's cool though, we'll be ready to take it out of the pan and add all the delicious frosting and nuts and caramel on top. We're ready to start making the fudge icing or frosting now. What we're going to do now is we're going to add this cocoa powder to our mixing bowl. We're also going to add that simple syrup that we made and had sitting in the freezer. We're going to now mix this, and we want to mix this until it forms a firm mass. And then we'll start adding the rest of the ingredients. As you can see, that is now a pretty firm mass here. What we're going to do next is we're going to add our vegetable oil and our shortening. And we're going to mix this well. Now that that is mixed well, we're going to go ahead and add our other amount of corn syrup. And our butter. We're going to mix this now until it's completely smooth. Because the butter is so soft, you'll notice it doesn't take very much to get that smooth. I wanted to stop that. Scrape down my edges. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the confectioner's sugar. We actually want to add it all at once. So I've taken that off of the stand mixer so I can get it all dumped in there. I'm going to put that back on the stand mixer. Lower that down. And we're going to put this cover on it so we don't have such a spray. Next thing we want to do is we just want to barely turn the heat on. We're just going to gently turn that on, kind of pulse it a little bit. We're trying to get the powdered sugar mixed in. We don't want it to go too hard or too fast because we don't really want a powdered sugar bath. Okay, now it's mixing in really well. We're just going to let that sit and we're going to let it beat until it's smooth. We'll turn the speed up. You'll notice this is really thick. That's where our 4 to 6 more tablespoons of water are going to come in. Now remember, this is not going to be a set amount of water. What we're going to do is we're going to add the water 1 tablespoon at a time. So we put that in. We turn the mixer back on. And as soon as we see that is mixed in, we're just going to add another tablespoon of water. And we're going to add another tablespoon of water. And you can see it's starting to get thinner, but it's still not quite there. So far we have 3 tablespoons of water, and we needed to add 4 to 6. So let's add another tablespoon. What I want to do here is, I know I'm going to need to add more water, but I just want to kind of pull all this out, scrape down the sides, and you may even have to add more water than that 4 to 6. You're just going to add it till it gets to the consistency you want it. It's not quite there yet, I don't think. I think I'm going to need to add at least 1 more tablespoon, but you'll notice it is getting there. It's getting really, really close. But I wanted to scrape it down. Let's get 1 more tablespoon of water in there, and we'll see how that does. That's still probably a little bit thicker than I want it, so I'm going to add 1 more tablespoon. Think about this as you really don't know how much you're going to add until you're done. Now you'll notice that's looking really creamy, just like we want the frosting to be. Now when I scrape this off, it's looking very much like we would be able to spread this. I think we have our fudge frosting. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the caramel sauce to go on top of it all. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add the sugar and the sweetened condensed milk into the caramel sauce. So I'm going to quickly open up my sweetened condensed milk. Going to dump this into the saucepan. my sweetened condensed milk, and I'm going to dump my sugar in. We're going to turn this now to medium low heat. And we want to stir this constantly until that sugar dissolves. Now it looks like it's all dissolved, but it's still very grainy when I touch it. So I want to heat it till it's actually dissolved, not just mixed in, but actually dissolved. And you'll be able to see that looks a little bit different. Reason we want to stir it constantly is we don't want it to burn on the bottom. We don't want the milk to scald, we don't want it to stick to the bottom. So that's why we're stirring it while we're bringing it to a dissolve. Now as this gets hot, it could actually burn you. So you do want to be careful that as it's heating up, you don't touch it because you don't want it to burn you. It's starting to look like it's dissolving. It's not quite there, but you'll notice it doesn't look near as granulated. I usually like to cook it till it's just ready to start boiling, because then I know the sugar is completely dissolved. So you can see it's just starting to boil, so I'm going to turn the heat off. And now I'm going to add my butter. And this butter has come to room temperature. And I'm going to add my vanilla. And I'm just going to stir them in. The heat is off now. Once we get that stirred in, so that all the butter's melted, we will then add our milk. Almost have all that butter melted. Okay. Now we're just going to add our milk. And we want to stir that in also. Once that's completely stirred in, we'll have our caramel sauce. And this is kind of runny right now because it's still very hot or warm. It has cooled down some because we've added the milk, we've added the butter, but it is still very warm. Once we have this milk all stirred in, we're going to pour it into this dish and then just stick it in the fridge to cool. And once it's cooled down, we'll be ready to put it on our brownies. We're ready to put this in the fridge to cool down. Once it's cooled down, we'll be ready to remove the brownies or the cookies from the pan and then spread all of the fun stuff on top. We're ready to now put this all together. Our brownies have cooled, our caramel's been in the fridge, our frosting's done, and we have some nuts. We want to start by getting the brownies out of the pan. To do this, I want to go along the edges and make sure that they're not sticking to the edge. Now remember, I put a silicone mat on the bottom. So we're hoping that by going around the edges here, we'll be able to just dump these out and the silicone mat will be on top. That's our plan. We want to dump this out and then just pull the mat off. I then want to put this onto that board. With that done, I'm now ready to spread it, and get it all delicious. First, we're going to take our fudge frosting. We're just going to put that on there and spread it around. And it'll take, I don't know if it'll take all this frosting, but it's going to take quite a bit of it. So I'm just going to plop some down all over and spread it around. And I want to spread this to the edge. All right, now that I have that spread, I'm going to get my caramel sauce. I just want to take this caramel sauce and spoon it, or pour it onto and spread it around. I want to get this pretty much covering the frosting. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to take that small offset spatula that I have, and I'm going to go like this, and I want to swirl so that the caramel and the fudge are together. So I have them mixed, now I'm just swirling them together. And it may take a little while. So you want to get them swirled so you have caramel into the fudge and fudge on top of the caramel. And the last thing I'm going to do, first I'm going to go like this and clean off the edge, and if it's falling down, I'm going to sprinkle some pecans on top. And if you don't want the pecans this big, you can make them smaller. I like having them bigger, so I'm keeping them this size. And now all I want to do is I'm going to try to stick this back in the pan so I can stick it in the fridge. I just want to stick the whole board into the pan. That way if I want to get it back out of the pan, it's going to be easy. And I'm just going to stick this pan in the fridge and have the caramels and the chocolate set up. All right, that's in the fridge and it's setting up. Then we'll get to try it. Here is our turtle brownie cookie bars. Look at that delicious caramel and chocolate. Try some today. This is Nadine with DIY Sweets. Enjoy and happy baking.